The Culture Pop Podcast is brought to you by the law offices of Jacob Emrani.
Accident or injury, call Jacob Emrani. Call Jacob.
Hey, it's Mase. If you or a friend or loved one is injured in an accident, the first person you should call is my friend Jacob. When I did this, Jacob was great. He helped me by talking through the next steps, which really put my mind at ease. When you're injured in an accident, you got to have an expert. That's why you call Jacob, just like I did. Call Jacob, 844-24-JACOB. That's 844-24-JACOB, or visit calljacob.com.
Call Jacob.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Culture Pop Podcast. I'm Steve Mason, along with Sue 𝐂𝐚𝐫𝐫𝐲. This is the show where we talk about everything happening in the world of pop culture. Great guest today. It is Carrie Preston, star of Elsbeth on CBS. I always want to call it Elphaba because of Wicked, but no, it's Elsbeth on CBS. Sue 𝐂𝐚𝐫𝐲, what's happening?
Just got back from San Francisco.
Nice. How's everything up there?
Everything is great. My great nephew, who's 3 years old.
What makes him so great?
He is just adorable and just, I guess by definition of being the second generation of nephew.
Yeah.
He's a great nephew.
That's great. That's great. That's cool.
So he went to he's 3 years old. He went to his first Major League Baseball game.
Oh, wow.
The game that the Giants got the Little League home run in the bottom of the ninth.
Yeah.
That was his first game.
Oh, wait a minute. Was that over the weekend, right?
It was Sunday. It was yesterday.
Sunday. Oh, wow. That's crazy. Yeah, that
I
was a
know.
great finish to that game. You don't see that very often. It was a Little League play, for sure. So, you know what I've been doing?
Mm-hmm. No.
Been getting some ink.
Whoa.
Did you know I got ink?
I think we talked about it, but I don't think we talked about it on the podcast.
Did you see it?
Yes, I did see it, but now it's it's like a week later. So let's see if there's a change.
So here it is. Arg.
Arg. Wow. That is so sweet.
Yeah. One for each puppy that me and Juan have had.
Okay, so we got a little glimpse of your workout body. Just a glimpse.
Just a glimpse. Yep, just a glimpse. So that counts, right?
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, that
Wait,
counts.
you gonna show us a little bit each show?
Every show, I'll show you a little bit more. It's going to be like Gypsy Rose Lee over here. Going to slowly unclothe myself.
Okay.
So Sue 𝐂𝐚𝐫𝐲, there are such great shows on TV right now. It's unbelievable, right? I want to start with The Last of Us. Now, I love this show. I was so excited for season 2. I think Pedro Pascal is amazing. And then all of a sudden, you're caught up, right?
Yes, I am.
Episode 2, bam, Pedro Pascal is gone. I don't know what, now apparently everybody that plays the game knew that Joel was going to die, but I don't play the game, so I had no idea that this was coming. Did you have any indication?
No, and when you say plays this game, what's this game?
Oh, are you serious?
I'm serious. I don't know about it.
There's a video game called The Last of Us. And they're following this as it goes along, following the game. So in this point at the story, Joel is gone and Ellie is now left to sort of carry on. And obviously she's going to go to war with these folks in Seattle because who killed Joel? It was one of those fireflies, Abby.
Abby.
And eventually Ellie is going to kill Abby, right? That's definitely happening.
Well, she's on a mission.
But what is this show without Pedro Pascal, without Joel? Because he is a star, man.
I kept on thinking that, because there was that scene in the last episode.
Yep.
Where he's dead. I mean, he's lying there, and they do a close-up on his hand. Right?
I thought his hand was going to move.
I did too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, because he wasn't killed by The Walking Dead.
No, he was killed by Abby.
Right, with the shaft of a golf club.
Yeah.
So it's not like you get killed with the shaft of a golf club, you come back to life.
Correct.
You know what I mean?
Even though I thought, how could they kill Pedro Pascal?
I know.
So now now the show immediately changes for me. And that doesn't mean I like it less, but it's a completely different show, at least to me, with Ellie as the lead and without anybody sort of to save her. Now she's got to save herself over and over again, or Dina's going to help her save herself. But great show. It's beautiful, cinematic. I don't know if you know this or not, but the guy who directed episode 2, which is the one where Joel died, is Mark Mylod. Mylod. He directed like a couple of the big Game of Thrones episodes. He also directed a bunch of Succession episodes. And in fact, Craig Mazin, who's the creator of Last of Us, timed this so Mark Mylod would be able to direct episode 2, the dramatic one where Joel dies. And it's beautiful, cinematic, powerful, sad. I mean, just really, really rough to watch.
Well, it's interesting that he was a director on Game of Thrones, because in the second episode, when The Walking Dead came to their town and they were trying to like knock down the wall, so to speak.
Yep.
It reminded me so much of the White Walkers.
Me too.
Even down to the giant.
Yeah, the giant.
That wouldn't die.
Joel's brother's got a flamethrower. Finally kills him. But yeah, there's a big giant mushroom man. They're fungus, right? So
Yes.
It's some sort of fungal disease. So he basically looked like a giant mushroom. The one addition I really love to this year on Last of Us, Catherine O'Hara.
Oh God, she's great.
Everything is better with Catherine O'Hara. She plays the shrink. She's wise. She's an alcoholic. She talks about it. She talks about sort of her broken down life, but still helping people. She says, I need a therapist myself, but I'm a drunk. So how could I possibly get a therapist? Plus, I'm the only one here. She is just so friggin' good.
Right. I mean, it was actually a pretty smart casting choice too, even though, she really is in everything.
She is.
You know?
She's starting. We're going to talk about the studio. She's in that too.
Mhm.
First, though, let's talk about Adolescence. So this is a disturbing show. It's created by Jack Thorne and Stephen Graham. And Stephen Graham plays Jamie's father. Jamie is this 13-year-old boy who is arrested for murdering a classmate. Jamie is played by Owen Cooper. Stephen Graham plays his father, and Christine Tamarco plays Jamie's mother. Each episode is, I was reading about this, meticulously rehearsed and filmed and then done in a single take, which makes it feel real. It gives it emotional gravity. I just think those episodes, and by the way, it's not just like two people in a room. It's like, we're getting in a car. We're driving to the place where Jamie's being held. We're meeting him in the room. We're leaving. And the camera is with them the entire time. I just think these episodes are masterfully done.
Yeah, it was especially that last episode when they were planning. It was the father's birthday.
Yep.
And the plans that they were making, and how they were in the car and they were singing and they were trying to normalize so much of their lives, or get back to the normalcy.
Right.
And it was just so powerful. Did you know that where the idea came to do this show?
No.
Stephen Graham had read about a series of crimes in London with teenagers stabbing people.
Wow.
And he thought, what is this with this kind of phenomena that's going on? And that's kind of planted the seed to do the show.
So there's this, do you know who Andrew Tate is? He got referenced once. He's like a total asshole.
Is it the Tate brothers? Is it?
No. Those are the Logan Paul and Jake Paul. No,
that's something different.
This is Andrew Tate. He's a former kickboxer.
Right.
He is just unbelievably an asshole. And he talks about, being rich and dominating people and, ultra male and controlling women. And that's sort of, they call this the manosphere. The manosphere is a network. I looked this up, by the way. I'm reading it. Just a network of online communities that promote misogynistic and anti-feminist ideologies on vulnerable teenage boys. So this is where that sort of comes from, the origin of that this kid comes under the sway of this manosphere and takes a different view of women, and that's where this winds up. Now, the other one I think is interesting is, do you know what an incel is?
No.
Okay. So an incel is somebody who blames women for their lack of romantic or sexual success. And this has been linked to real-world violence. So if you remember, the dispute in the school had to do with whether or not Jamie was an incel. And he took offense at it, and that's one of the reasons why we saw what we saw, the murder. The one thing that jumps out, first of all, I thought episode 3 of Adolescence with the therapist played by Aaron Doherty is so, it's not the most difficult one from a one-shot perspective, but the asshole really comes out of Jamie. He is he's just brutal.
Well, you know what it reminded me of? It reminded me of the Bates Motel series with the teenage Norman Bates.
Right.
And how he was charming and somewhat vulnerable, and then he was a complete monster.
Yeah, yeah. And this kid snapped. He would snap on the therapist, and it was disturbing. And the last episode, I think this is one of the things that we don't necessarily think of after a brutal act like this is, the mom, played by Christine DeMarco, and the dad, played by Stephen Graham, are left to ask, we made this person. Like, we made him biologically, and we made him who he is. And what responsibility do the parents have over what their kid does when they've raised him? And are they somehow responsible for this?
Well, it's such an interesting subject because they have a daughter also.
Yes.
So the same DNA created the daughter who was not like him.
Yes.
And then you think, how much is it the DNA? How much is it of just the world, what he experienced in school and what he was subjected to? How much of it, I guess it's just a combination.
Well, and I mean, I think also the idea is, he got radicalized by some of these sites that view women in a very negative way. And that sort of, that gave him a worldview that led to this tragedy. So it's a great show. It is just, from a production perspective, I mean, just amazing that they were able to do these episodes in one shot. And by the way, 96 million people watched in the first 3 weeks that show came out. It is one of Netflix's most watched English language series of all time.
And you know what I'm so impressed about, going back to the actor, Owen Cooper, who played Jamie? He had no previous acting experience.
Is that right?
It's just mind-boggling. Where do they find these novice actors who've never done anything to play? And that was a really difficult role.
That episode 3 is just him and that therapist. I mean, that's like acting is what that is. And for a first timer, he's amazing. He's amazing.
Yeah.
All right, third show I want to talk about, and this is such a fun show, is The Studio, created by Seth Rogen and Evan Goldberg. Seth Rogen plays just promoted studio head Matt Remick, and the first 2 episodes are the ones that just blow me away. Like, episode 1, Bryan Cranston's in episode 1, he plays the head of the studio, Griffin Mill, who licenses the Kool-Aid Man to turn it into a movie. Now, I would say that's ridiculous, too. I would say ridiculous to have a Kool-Aid family and a Kool-Aid Man. But there's a movie at the theaters right now called The Minecraft Movie, or A Minecraft Movie, which is basically exactly this. But the fact that he tricks Scorsese into maybe making a Jonestown film using Kool-Aid as the title to satisfy his boss is just friggin' brilliant.
Yeah, I think that so much of this is kind of Curb-esque. It's definitely scripted, for sure.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
The writing is just phenomenal. But from my experience of working on TV shows, I never worked behind the scenes on a film, but just television, there's so much truth to it, you know? The ridiculousness of what you fight for. Um, um, you know, everybody's just like an inch away from losing their job, you
Yep.
know, every day, you know, one bad decision, you get fired.
Yep.
Ridiculous people in charge, constantly. People that have like no talent at all, are making executive decisions. I mean, it really, you know, and look, you know, you write what you know,
Yeah.
and Seth Rogen and what's his partner's name? Goldberg?
Evan Goldberg.
Evan Goldberg. They're brilliant. Now you talked about the first two episodes. The last episode was the one with Johnny Knoxville, and I don't know.
Right, I saw it.
Okay, that to me was such a brilliant show because it took comparisons between being a studio executive versus being a doctor or being a surgeon.
Yeah, oh yeah, it's
and
genius.
and oncology specifically.
Yes.
And his argument, I mean, it definitely held water to me because, yes, it is a very, very stressful job working in show business.
Yes.
So his argument to the doctors was like, "You are insane. This is ludicrous." But it definitely made sense. It was so smart.
Yeah.
It was such a smart and juxtaposed with the doctor having a phone call with an emergency.
Yes,
and then
yes.
what his emergency with the, you know, making this movie about like a diarrhea apocalypse.
The zombies shoot diarrhea at people and then they become zombies too. It's just
and the trailer and what
the
they want to
trailer.
take out of the trailer and, you know, fighting about, you know, how much diarrhea and it can come out of their mouth. I mean, it was just hilarious.
Yeah. They've all been the second episode, the Wonder episode is fantastic too.
Yes.
That's the one with Sarah Polley and she's trying to get the big long one and Seth Rogen is just constantly fucking the whole thing, but it's still a wonder and nothing impresses me more than a wonder. I just love a wonder. Now, if you were them, and I think this will be nominated for an Emmy for Best Comedy Series, which episode would you submit?
It's a really tough one because
it is a really tough one.
Because the Wonder was great and it was brilliant, but I don't know. I mean, and I know it's really off color, this last one, but I just thought I made episode 6 is the one so far.
Wow. Yeah, see, I'm all about the Wonder. I'd submit that Wonder. I think it's genius. By the way, one shout out, actually 2 shout outs. Catherine O'Hara, again, is terrific. I love I think you add Catherine O'Hara, it makes everything better. She improves every project. And the head of marketing is Catherine Hahn. Oh my God, she's funny. She is so over the top, ridiculously funny. Just all around great show. Do you think that plays in places where there is not, in other words, if you go to the middle of the country, is anybody watching the studio, or is it so industry specific that a mainstream audience won't watch it?
Yeah, I don't think a mainstream audience watches this because I just don't think they get it.
Well, they don't understand the business, right? I mean, you're in the business. I've been around the business. If you're in the business, I think you get some of the stuff. If you're not, I just don't think you get it. So it's interesting. I mean, it's streaming on Apple Plus. If you haven't seen the show, it's terrific. I think there are 6 episodes out now. One of the things I love too is that every episode is a standalone. So you don't have to watch all of the episodes in a row to actually get what's going on. I just think terrific show. We're talking about 3 shows here. Last of Us is Max, Adolescence is Netflix, and the studio is Apple Plus. So we are promoting all of the streaming platforms today. Next week, Paramount Plus. Yeah. Hey, don't forget, if you're watching this show on YouTube, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. You can leave us a comment, a review, a show idea. a reaction to any of the shows that we talked about here. Were you as shocked about Joel dying as we were? If you're listening on Apple or Spotify, again, subscribe to the show. Big points if you leave us a 5-star rating and a good review. And if you've got a friend that would appreciate the Culture Pop Podcast, tell them about it. We are always looking for more viewers and more listeners. You know what I did this show? I blocked myself off of the screen so I can only see you.
Oh.
So I'm not self-conscious about what I'm doing.
Okay. You're doing fine, by the way.
Oh, am I doing fine? Yeah, I just try to let her rip there. Let her rip. All right, here we go. You ready? Our guest today is a Julliard-trained actor who made her Broadway debut in The Tempest. She has appeared in films like My Best Friend's Wedding, Transamerica, Vicky Cristina Barcelona, and The Holdovers on television. Her shows include True Blood, Person of Interest, Getting On, and Happy-ish. And her latest show is Elsbeth, featuring a character she created for The Good Wife and The Good Fight. Terrific show. Carrie Preston joins us. Carrie, thank you so much for doing this. We really appreciate you coming on. Huge fan of the show. Elsbeth is delightful. My imagination, my thought about you is you are delightful, having watched your work over the years. Tell me how much of you is in Elsbeth? How much is on the page and how much is your creative instincts?
I would say it's a nice blend of those things, that there's like a real alchemy of who I am and what I bring to it and what's on the page, you know. If it ain't on the page, it ain't on the stage, is what I always say. So I always start with what is written on the page. I was trained in theater. I went to Julliard. I was trained doing classical plays, and where the words are the Bible that you always go back to. And I do the same type of thing with television. And so even, way back 15 years ago when I first started playing this role, I could tell on the page that she was going to be something unique. And there was something special about the way that she was written. And I was even told by Robert King, who created the show with Michelle King, we're thinking about her like a female Columbo.
Mm-hmm.
So that meant that she was going to be somebody who was unconventional in the way she approached things, unorthodox, unexpected, and underestimated. And so I kind of, started working with that. And there would be little clues on the page, like she walks into a room and the first thing she does is she comments on the bookshelves. She gets distracted by somebody's brooch. What's that about? And I started thinking, what's that about? And then the writer wrote the word pause, just pause in parentheses, P-A-U-S-E. Okay. Now what's in the pause? What's going on there? That's the most interesting thing to me, because that says that something's happening. And you don't just pause for no reason. So what is the reason? What's going on? And then that started cluing me in on the intricacies, the way this woman thinks. And then I started messing with that, and then luckily was encouraged to do more of that. And then we have, reached this place where there's a real trust between what the writers are doing and what I'm going to bring to it.
I love the introduction of the accessorizing. The array of bags.
Yes.
The quirky outfits. I mean, it's got a Mary Poppins, Alice in Wonderland, the colors that you wear.
Yes.
Talk about the evolution of your character in that respect, because I don't remember. I mean, I watched The Good Wife. I don't remember a lot of that in that show. When did that become introduced?
It did come in that show, actually. At the beginning when I was first there, I was just a guest, I was just a guest, and I was there to serve the main characters and the main storyline. And I was there to bolster that and be a support. So I wasn't sure, how far I could go. I'm somebody who really likes to make a bold choice. I just find that, I don't want to be just a lawyer of the week. I want to do something interesting. I want to, make this person singular and not just generic, and so I I started playing with the physicality of the character, the distractedness, all of that stuff, and trying to make that as specific as possible. And then luckily, um, the exterior, the clothing, the props and things started coming in to help bolster that. Dan Lawson is our costume designer. He's been there since day one on Good Wife, Good Fight, and now Elsbeth. He brings the character to me every episode. I just stand there and just let him hand it to me. We find these little specificities and stuff. Um, uh, and we've found them as we've gone along. In The Good Wife and Good Fight, he was serving a bigger look. Elsbeth was not the center of that show, so he couldn't do too much with it, but he always had me in a bow. He always had me in mixed patterns, as a way to kind of convey that Elsbeth is somebody that you're going to think is one thing, but she's going to end up being something else. And that's superpower. And she's going to use that, knowing she dresses for herself, but she knows that the way she dresses is going to throw people a little bit off their game so she can, catch them. And you could say the same for the bags. Brooke Kennedy, who was one of the exec producers on Good Wife, and it was also the producing director and directed a lot of the episodes. She's the one who was like, let's give her a bunch of bags. And she brought in these she had the prop people bring in these Vera Bradley bags. And she just gave me this gift of obstacle. And of course, the physical comedy and the fun of watching a person struggling with this, but also kind of an exterior manifestation of what goes on in this person's brain. She's constantly, wrestling with things, compartmentalizing things, putting things inside things in her brain. So now it's an outward manifestation of that.
I wanted to just to stay on the bag thing for a second. There was an episode in this last season, this current second season 2, where we got to see what was in the bags. And I always wondered, watching you carry these bags, what's in those bags? And then we get to see. How much were you a part of what went in those bags?
Very much. I was very much. And I was also very, very concerned about opening up the mystery box, so to speak. Because I thought, why do we want to show what's in the bags when it's way more interesting to imagine what's in the bags? And I called John Tolan's, our showrunner, which I don't ever do because I trust him completely. But I called and said, hey, I'm really, really worried about this. I want to make sure that we do it in a responsible way. And so if we're going to show stuff, then we need to at least have me say some things about my emotional connection to these bags and how they represent why I carry them, what they make me feel, so that it's not just then, oh, I'm carrying a slinky and a this or that or whatever. And so to make sure that it was very specific. And then we decided also that she would be carrying around like little tokens from all of her cases. So you'll see that there's, little Easter eggs from all of the different cases and stuff, that she's still holding on to them as like a reminder of, oh, I did this thing. And so those things are in there. And then there's the practicality of some things that she might need during the day. But I always find that, she's carrying things that's kind of like a security blanket or crutches, that she's carrying them because she needs them for her brain to work correctly. And when she gets to the place where she solves the crime, she doesn't have them anymore.
But what I really loved about that episode is that it fit into the storyline, why we got to see it. And I love that. It wasn't just a random, oh, we're just going to see what's in your bags.
Yes.
It was such a smart way to show it.
Very, very smart. And I like I said, we have great writers and I totally trust them. And I realized once we started doing it, that it was going to be okay. That we were going to be okay. And the sort of KonMari type character that Mary Louise Parker played was so much about letting go of things. But meanwhile, it turns out, I mean, this is a spoiler if you haven't seen the episode, but
Yeah.
she's a hoarder. So, it was a nice little twist there at the end.
So it's a tribute to how good the show is, the guest stars you've had on the show. You mentioned Mary Louise Parker. I mean, people like Nathan Lane and Laurie Metcalf and Eric McCormick and Tracy Ullman, on and on and on. What's it like for you to have somebody like that kind of parachute into the show for an episode or an arc? Is that fun for you as an actor?
So fun, and it's actually absolutely unbelievable. So many of these people are, like iconic in people that I respect and never thought that I would have the opportunity to work with. And here they are coming to play with us on this show for, 8 or 9 days, and the fact that they trust the show, the writers, they trust me. They trust CBS that with their careers, that they're going to come in and lend their talents to us is so humbling. And it's really thrilling because, of course, it makes me bring my A game. Not that I don't always strive to do that, but even more so because I want to make sure that they don't, regret their choice and that they know that they're gonna get a nice creative workout. And I think it's been fun for them because they don't have to commit to a full series or a full season or, several months. They just commit to this little finite amount of time, and they know that they're going to have really good writing and a fun character to create. So I still can't believe it. The people that I get to play with, it's incredible.
Well, that's what I love because, when I was growing up, I mean, I remember watching like The Twilight Zone, and you would see like Burgess Meredith, or you'd see Robert Redford, and
Yeah.
People who notoriously were not doing television.
Yeah.
And that's what I love. Or is there anybody out there that you're like, oh God, it would be amazing to have that person?
It's funny because people ask me that, and then I think, gosh, I wouldn't have thought maybe. I mean, I don't know what they're gonna write. And so we sit around like it's like Christmas morning when we find out who's gonna be the villain, We Wendell Pierce and Cara Patterson and, all the other actors were all like, "Who's gonna be? Who's gonna be?" And, there hasn't been ever a moment of disappointment. So I wouldn't even I just trust that we have incredible casting directors, and the producers and the writers are gonna find the people that are right for what it is that they're creating, and that they're gonna be great. They've set it up so well because we only have 3 series regulars on the show. And so but what we really have on paper is 4. It's just the 4th series regular is a different person each week.
Right. Yeah, that's so smart. So
Very
smart. So cool.
Yeah.
So from what I understand, acting is what you always wanted to do. I mean, I don't trust Wikipedia, but according to Wikipedia, you started a theater troupe when you were 8 years old. First, is that true? And then what kind of performances are you doing with your friends when you're 8?
Yeah, it was more I think I started acting doing plays when I was 8. I started the company when I was 12. Okay, so I had another 4 years.
Okay, got it.
Else. So what I did was I got excited about, acting. And my brother's an actor still. He started acting in plays, and I just wanted to be like him. And so I started doing community theater, to be like him, and found that it was, like my passion and my joy. And then I just wanted to keep doing it. So I got all the neighborhood kids, and we started a theater company. We called ourselves the ST Kids, the Street Theater Kids. And we
Nice.
would, write skits and sing songs, and we would charge, people a dime or a quarter to come and watch us. We sold lemonade. We were entrepreneurial even then. And I just was like I'm like a lifer, I loved it from day one, and just found my way. Realized when I was in high school, I need training. I need to learn how to do this because I'm not I don't know really what I'm doing. I had wonderful teachers, but, I grew up in Macon, Georgia, so I needed to go to a place that was all about, giving me the skills so I could do this for life.
So
So
I was
what
going to
you what
ask you
you
about I was going to ask you about Juilliard because you said you had to go and learn and study and all that stuff. I've heard that Juilliard and acting schools are unbelievably competitive. What was that experience like for you?
Well, it wasn't that it didn't feel that way for me. I mean, well, first of all, I started off doing undergraduate work. I went to a wonderful undergraduate school called the University of Evansville in Southern Indiana. Very small, but a very tight little conservatory theater company.
Mhm.
And it really gave me such a foundation upon which to build my more refined work that I did at Juilliard. So, credit to them and to the professors there and the teachers there. There have been a lot of really wonderful alumni that have come out of there. The most famous one of the day right now is Rami Malek. He was
Mm.
acting, but Rutina Wesley, who was on True Blood with me, she went there. Dee Dee Lovejoy, who was there before me. So there's just like a really great amount of training that came out of there. But I don't think I would have gotten into Juilliard had I not had that foundation.
Mm.
And then going to Juilliard for me, it was after undergrad. So for me, I was just a slightly bit older. We had people who were anywhere from 18 to like almost 30 in our class. We had like a real age range in there. And for me, it was really about refining it and getting myself ready for the professional world. I was already doing professional theater in the summers. I was going and doing Shakespeare. So for me, it was like a great way to have an entree into the business because it's in New York, but also just really honing in on uh, giving myself stronger tools.
what was your audition for Juilliard?
You mean, what did I do? What pieces?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, by the time I got out of Evansville, they really got you ready for these auditions. So we had to be out of there with like no less than 10 or 12 monologues, classical, contemporary. We had to have songs. Like we were ready for anything. I think, as I recall, for Juilliard, I did, of all things, very bold, because it's way overdone. I did a Juliet.
Mm.
Um, because I knew I had a take on it that was not gonna be maybe what the other girls were doing. And that proved that paid off. And then I did a contemporary piece that was actually from, a movie, which again was kind of bold. It was from a little known or lesser known Woody Allen movie called Interiors.
Oh,
Mm.
yeah.
Oh, I
Sure.
love that movie. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Did a little monologue from Interiors, and I knew that no one else was doing that. So I did the most popular with something that they had never seen.
So when I think of you and your career, one of the things that jumps out at me is My Best Friend's Wedding, which is a terrific movie. Love it. Great cast. And you've got that scene where everybody, the whole wedding party sings Say a Little Prayer. What do
Yeah.
you remember about that particular scene and that movie?
That scene was so iconic. Well, that was my first big Hollywood movie, so I was thrilled, and that was, like, back when they would make when romantic comedies were the queen of Hollywood.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so, and Julia Roberts was at the height of her career. She's from Georgia, I was from Georgia, so I was just very happy to be working with somebody who, I looked up to, who, was from the same roots that I had, so that was pretty cool. But that scene, that wasn't in the original script.
Hmm.
The director put that in there. PJ Hogan, he wrote that scene and he really wanted to have like a musical component to this movie that was kind of like a throwback to the screwball comedies of the 50s. So he wanted to have music in there. So he added that scene and Rachel Griffiths plays my sister.
Yeah.
We play the fraternal twin sisters, and that scene took 12 to 14-hour days to shoot that one
Wow.
scene. Yeah, I mean, that movie was shot on film. It always takes longer, which is also why it looks so great.
Yeah.
But, you think about all the angles and all the things they have to do. You also think about the waiters and waitresses carrying around lobsters and crabs.
Hmm.
But day 2, we're shooting that in the summer. The smell is pretty intense. I definitely remember that. And, but I also just remember being given the creative freedom, to sing, and they kept our voices in that scene. They dubbed us later, but they kept our voices in that scene. So that was pretty cool, because I'm not really a singer, but I was doing my best, and then they kept that in there. But it was a great experience. Also, just watching how Julia Roberts navigated, being the star that she was, and how in control of the craft that she was at age 28 or whatever we were at that time. It was impressive.
Yeah.
So True Blood was like, I guess, kind of the first of these vampire shows that came out. What was your take when you got cast in this?
It was fascinating because I was doing a movie with Alan Ball. It was a movie that he wrote and directed called Towelhead. So I had a part in that movie, and we were just chatting between takes one day, and I said, "What are you doing next?" And he said, "Well, I'm doing this vampire show for HBO." And I thought, "A vampire show? What?" Like, he's doing these heavy things, he did American Beauty, and he did 6 Feet Under, and this is what he's gonna do? And I thought, well, it's Alan Ball. He must have his finger on some pulse, And he said, "I think I have something for you in that." So my agents got me the script, and I read it. I didn't know what role he was talking about. Like, that's how different Arlene was than me. And I said, what part is he talking? And it was like, Arlene. Oh my God. Okay. So I went into the audition with like push-up bra and like tight skirt and long nails, cigarette, and just kind of tried to channel these kinds of women that I grew up with in Georgia, that I think that this character was trying to represent. I was a blonde. I wasn't a redhead.
Right.
The character was very redhead. And and luckily he and the HBO were like, "Yeah, that's it. That's what we want." So, a long wig and a fake tan and all of that. And then this character started happening. And then I got to play her for 7 years.
I think are you in New York?
Yeah, I live in New
You
York.
are. Okay. So I just got back from New York. I saw a bunch of theater when I was there, and I absolutely love going to the theater. Do you get a chance to go to the theater, and what have you seen lately?
I do get a chance. I mean, I've been, Elsbeth is pretty much a full-time job. So
Sure.
I'm only on hiatus. So I haven't gotten to see everything. But the last thing that I saw was Gypsy with Audra McDonald.
Oh my
Who I, of
God.
course, know. Audra actually, I know her actually originally from Julliard. We went to Julliard together. She was there.
Oh,
She was in the, in the vocal department, but I knew her then. And then of course, worked with her on a little bit on the Good Fight.
right.
And so to watch her play that role, and of course you've seen her play all of these incredible roles along the way, but to see her take
Yeah.
on was, I mean, it blew my mind.
Yeah.
I was totally obsessed and moved by what she did with that, and what George C. Wolfe, who I worked with way back when, did with the direction and the casting and all of it. It just illuminated that piece in a way that made it so fresh and so visceral.
I also saw Gypsy, and I was just blown away by Audra McDonald. I saw Patti LuPone do it,
Sure.
which was amazing and incredible. I think that was like back in 2008. She was, you know what I thought? When she's doing Rose's turn,
Yes.
and she comes out to the edge of the stage, and it's just her. And I'm like, God, that must be so amazing to be in that. I mean, for me as an audience member, but for her to be in that moment, it must be just a crazy feeling.
Yes, I know, and I actually spoke to her about it afterwards, and I actually met one of the other castmates afterwards, and I was talking to them about it, and they said that, that the cast comes and stands, around on the wings and stuff so they can watch it because it changes from performance to performance.
Oh, amazing.
They
Amazing.
get out there and watch. So she just leaves it all there. And I think, like, Oprah I saw something on social media where Oprah went and saw it, and what she said I thought really captured said she's singing for and from the ancestors.
Wow.
And I thought that's a perfect way to put it.
Yeah. Well, you made your Broadway debut in The Tempest opposite Patrick Stewart.
Directed by
Um,
George Wolfe.
yeah. Oh, there you go. So,
So how about
so
that?
what's it like your first night on Broadway? What is that feeling like?
Oh, incredible, 'cause, Patrick Stewart was making his Broadway debut as well
Wow.
in that show, which was shocking given, where he was at that point in his career, which was, he had done so very much, but he had never done Broadway, and so, and me being like a classical theater trained baby, to be making my Broadway debut doing Shakespeare, that just it was such a thing that just doesn't happen very much, and so I felt very blessed to do that, and, the set was this, it was a big sand pit because, it takes place on an island, but there
Right.
was this little tiny shed that, Patrick Stewart and I would sit in at the beginning, and I had this trapdoor, and there would be this Caribbean music that would start, and it was live. It was live music with this, like, drumming and this kick, and then the thing would slowly, slowly, slowly open, and then I would come running down the ramp into the sand and start talking about the Tempest. And, so Patrick and I would sit in this little tiny shed thing, and we would do this, like, little drumming thing together. That was like a ritual when the music would start, and we would look at each other and connect in to each other, and I'll never forget it. It's like it was our little private little ritual that got us connected into the the joy and the gravity and and amazing, opportunity that we got to have every night to tell this story.
Oh, such a cool story. Yeah, I love that. Love that.
So my biggest fear, I've done a couple of plays, but my biggest fear about theater is forgetting lines. Have you ever had a moment where you forgot a line?
Yes, I mean,
And what do you do? What do you do?
oh, yeah, I mean, I think, if if you've had the blessing of doing this for as long as I've been doing it, you're gonna have that moment. Um, and on stage, it's, of course, the whole world stops, you know, the time stops, your brain stop everything stops, and you just have to kind of trust that something's gonna come,
Mm,
and it usually does, and if it doesn't, then somebody on stage is gonna help, and
right.
the times that has happened to me, one or the other of those things have happened, and it will feel like 15 minutes has gone by, but it's been, 5 seconds or something.
Yeah, right, right.
And, and that terror is always in me even when I'm doing TV, and, the amount of lines that we have to learn in such a short amount of time, it's impossible not to forget your lines on TV, but I do my darndest to to not do that, and I still get upset with myself when I can't
Mm,
remember that. I still
right.
it's like a struggle, I give myself a hard time, and I'm like, "Hey, Carrie, it's okay, you have a 5-page monologue. You're gonna forget a little bit. You've never done this in front of anyone,
Yeah.
except you're, alone in your bedroom while you're studying lines or, on the subway or whatever." I'm always studying lines for Elsbeth. It's like my full-time job is studying lines.
Mm,
It's invariably they're gonna go out of your head, and I
Right.
try
Well,
try not
it's
to give
it's
myself a hard time.
it's the live performance thing. I did stand up for a long time, and there would be times, like, in the middle of a bit, I
Yeah.
would completely forget, and you just, "Well, it's really nice to be here." You have to kinda come back with something or talk to the audience. Yeah, but like you said, yeah, it does feel like it's going on forever.
One time this was when I was in college, but I was doing a production of A Doll's House. I was playing Nora, and I stood up, um, and on the line, I'm free from care now. I'm quite free from care, and my entire skirt dropped down to my ankles,
Mm.
and I'm standing there. Luckily, I was wearing tights, but nonetheless, completely like with nothing on, and the audience gasped. Other actress on the stage gasped, like, everybody had this moment, and luckily, the other, character that was on stage, was Christine, who plays a seamstress, so the character is a seamstress, so I picked the skirt up and I said, "Christine, you must help me, um, mend my dress." So she was like, "Certainly, Nora." So she comes behind me and she somehow fastens it together and helps me, get the skirt back on until, I was able to get off stage and get it fixed. So, we had to improv.
Yeah,
Like,
right.
you just improv.
I just wanted to share. I had a friend who was on the Tonight Show with Johnny, obviously many years ago, and in the middle of her set, she was wearing a belt, and her belt just fell off, and she didn't acknowledge it, which I thought was,
Yeah.
not the thing to do, and she just went on talking like
Yeah.
nothing had
I
happened.
happened, yeah.
Yeah,
Oh god,
but it
that's
must have been terrifying.
so scary because then that's all you're thinking about, right?
Yeah, right. Right. Belt.
You're just thinking
Uh,
about belt, like, nothing's gonna come out of your mouth.
so last thing for you, I want to circle back to Elsbeth. You mentioned Columbo, and I definitely see this comparison between, so just one more thing, as Columbo would say.
Yeah.
He was able to make it very real. What's the key to making, her outside the box, quirky, idiosyncratic way of approaching cases and stories real?
Yeah. Yeah, it is about, always, just going back to the basics, making sure that you are grounded in what you want, what you're going after, why you're doing it that way, what your obstacles are, all of those things, just the basics of acting. Because if you start to do a thing because you think it'll be interesting or you think it'll be funny and it's not grounded in those things, it's not gonna really work. And I also, another just thing that I always go back to is what's the other person doing? What's the
Yeah.
other person what's the other person saying? And so that there's an authentic connection between two people, because I think that's what makes us want to watch things and relate to things, and what grounds us as actors, but also what grounds us as an audience into what characters are doing.
Well, we love the show. I love the character. It
And
seems like I've been with the character for a very long time, going all the way
yes,
back to
we
The Good
have,
Wife,
we
and
have.
she
Yeah.
is delightful, and you are delightful as well, as I expected.
Thank
Carrie,
you.
thank you so much for coming on. We really appreciate this.
Thank you for having me. This was delightful.
All right, there you have it, Carrie Preston. That is such a fun show, and I told her I've been with that character for a very long time, going all the way back to The Good Wife, and she's just quirky and odd and strange and idiosyncratic, all that stuff, but really, really fun.
Yeah, and that question you asked about how she's able to do that little hiccup of, hey, one more thing. It's so natural. It's so fluid and fun. And it's funny because I remember years ago when I had a boyfriend who cheated on me and lied to me a lot, and I
Let's see, what
remember
number is that?
but I remember feeling like Columbo sometimes. Like, I remember finding I was trying to get pregnant
Yep.
with him, and I remember finding condoms in his bedside drawer, and I was like, "What are you doing with condoms? I'm trying to get pregnant." And it was like, "Boy, yeah, 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 yeah." And
Yeah.
I felt like Columbo. It was like, "Excuse me, like, I don't mean to bother you, but, what are these condoms doing in your drawer?" And then,
Right.
like, another thing would spark that he was lying to me, and it was just such a but that's how I felt. I felt like Columbo.
So, it's funny, one quick story about Columbo. first of all, Peter Falk was just amazing. He was so good in this. He had terrible eyesight. So he was always afraid of missing his mark. And if you watch Columbo, he is looking down a lot of the time.
He goes like that a lot.
He goes like, it's to make sure he hits his marks, which is very, very cool. Elsbeth on CBS, love the show. Love Carrie Preston. She was terrific. Hey, thank you very much for watching. Thank you very much for listening. And we will see you next time on the Culture Pop Podcast.